start. Good morning, I'm Carl Frank. I'm this morning's worship associate. And as always, I have a few announcements. But first, a warm welcome to everyone this morning, whether you're joining us here in the sanctuary in person or if you're watching on YouTube. Am I coming through okay on the loudspeaker system?
Yes.
Sounds good? Okay.
Yes.
Everyone is welcome here, whatever your heritage, your age, your income, or your abilities. This is a home for people who have settled religious beliefs or none, or who are eager to explore their spiritual life. As a welcoming congregation, we affirm the full inclusion of people of all sexual orientations and gender identities. A special welcome to any visitors here this morning. If you'd like to get connected and learn more about our community, if you'll take a minute to fill out the yellow guest card that you should find in the back of one of the pews, we'll contact you. Now, and when we're done with the service here, as usual, we will have coffee downstairs. So just go down through here and we'll have a coffee hour and perhaps get to know you in person. Our child care staff person, who is here as a kind of beacon of hopefulness, that there might be some small children who would like to go downstairs. Kiana is down there waiting for to do some kind of fun things together. And in the future, remember that we have Kiana as a matter of course here. There's a small change to the order of service, the way it's been printed. It says under the call to worship, it references a poem by W.E.B. Du Bois. That actually is happening as a responsive reading down below.
No, it's the prayer.
It's happening as the prayer that follows the responsive reading. The responsive reading is Papa's Waltz, which is a poem by Theodore Rector. Jerry Ackerman has a show on in the entrance hall of his artwork. So take a look afterwards if you haven't seen it already. That's a revolving show run by Jay McLaughlin. So thank you, Jay, for getting that together, and Jerry for bringing in your work. On June 16th, here in the sanctuary, Reverend Dr. Margaret Bullitt Jones is going to be making a presentation having to do with Cape Ann Climate Coalition work. And then following that, a week or so later, Chet Abbott has suggested a book to read that ties on with the Reverend Dr. Bullitt Jones's work. And that book meeting will be Tuesday, June 23rd. The annual meeting is coming up on June 23rd, and Holly has a short announcement to make related to that. Holly.
Good morning. I am helping out Roger Garber to finish up the canvas. Canvas is our annual giving. Please, if you have not yet made a pledge and you would like to pledge to the church, you can see me after coffee hour. And if you are or are not a member of the church, you are invited to the annual meeting next week after the service. Those who are not members of the church cannot actually vote, but we love you to see how we conduct our business. And it's really important for everyone to attend who can. We will be going over the reports of events of this year, the plans for next year, financial issues, and be there or be square.
And with that, I turn this over to Jim, who's leading the service today.
Well, how do you do? I'm Jim Stevie. I'm the not Reverend Jim. I had it conferred upon me in Nashville when somebody called our house, and I answered, and they said, "Oh, Reverend Stevie." And I said, "No, you want my wife." They assumed the male in the family was the minister. So, we welcome you all here. Let's see, I hadn't written anything down for this, so I'm in danger of waking up. I think with that short introduction to me, this church has been here. It was founded in the 1700s and is still hanging on. And we are proud to have started the banner of religious freedom in this country. It didn't come to us automatically and right away. We had to fight for it, and the fight started right here. With that, I will go on to our opening words. This is a kind of... What? Prelude. Prelude. Beg your pardon. Thank you. That came first anyway. Come into this place which becomes holy by our presence. Come in with all your vulnerabilities and strengths, fears and anxieties, loves and hopes. For here you need not hide, nor pretend, nor be anything other than who you are and who you are called to be. Come into this place where we can touch and be touched, heal, be healed, forgive, and be forgiven. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, and the human is celebrated, and the compassionate expected. Come into this place. Together, we call it to be a holy place. our opening hymn. It's number 1018, and this land that we're going to is a really cool place, so let's sing out. Oh yeah, it's in the turquoise hymn. For those of you who don't know the numbering system. And I'm going to be hopping around a little bit more than Janet because, as you can see, I'm a member of the choir. We'll see how that goes. As is the UU tradition worldwide, we will now light our flaming chalice. The unison affirmation, as we light the chalice, printed in the order of service. And Carl will be lighting the candle as we say, in the light of the truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and mysteries of this great gift. And it is now our custom, since the Ukraine war started, we light a candle for peace, and we are thinking today, I am thinking today mostly of the places that aren't in the headlines, the Sudan, Iraq, Iran, other places where there is war, everything including peace in the home here, where there's domestic violence. So, have we lit the candle?
Yes.
We have. This now says song, but we're not doing a song, so we're going to, that was left over from a previous week. So we will now do the responsive reading, appointed by Theodore Rectory, and Carl will lead us.
You're lucky it wasn't on during the singing. So, my Papa's Waltz. Before I read it, I want to say one thing about Theodore Rentke. His family ran a greenhouse, and so the reference to soil on his father's hands in the evening is because his father was, the greenhouse was right behind their home. Title is Papa's Waltz. The whiskey on your breath could make a small boy dizzy. But I hung on like death. Such waltzing was not easy. We romped until the pans slid from the kitchen shelf. My mother's countenance could not The hand that held my wrist was battered on one knuckle. And every step you missed, my right finger straight a buckle. You beat time on my hand with a palm caked hard by dirt. And waltzed off to bed, so he came to feel your shirt.
I had asked Carl to mention to you that you got the best lines. As is customary right now, we will have a short prayer today, and I'm using the words in our hymnal written by W.E.B. Du Bois. The prayer, and afterwards, I'm forgetting my duties. Afterwards, there'll be a moment of silence, and then we will, if you will open your book to number 352, the great hymnal to 352, we will sing, have a sung response to the silence.
And we will remain seated.
And we will remain seated. Thank you, Robert. So, with all that business done, we will we'll bring ourselves toward prayer. The prayer of our souls is a petition for persistence, not for the one good deed or single thought, but deed on deed, thought on thought, until day calling unto day shall make a life worth living.
readings today are 3 poems appropriate for Father's Day. 3 different poets. Robert Hayden is the first one. Those winter Sundays. Sundays, too, my father got up early and put his clothes on in the blue-black cold. Then, with cracked hands that ached from labor in the weekday weather, made banked fires blaze. No one ever thanked him. I'd wake and hear the cold splintering, breaking when the rooms were warm. When the rooms were warm, he'd call, and slowly I would rise and dress, fearing the chronic angers of that house. Speaking indifferently to him who had driven out the cold, and polished my good shoes as well, what did I know? What did I know of love's austere and lonely offices? The next is Father's Song by the poet Gregory Orr. Yesterday, against admonishment, my daughter balanced on the couch back, fell, and cut her mouth. Because I saw it happen, I knew she was not hurt, and yet a child's blood so red it stops a father's heart. My daughter cried her tears. I held some ice against her lip. That was the end of it. Round and round, bow and kiss, I try to teach her caution. She tries to teach me risk. And this is by Jim Seavey himself. Whiskey. There is a city growing here, old buildings demolished, a wall here, a cornice there, held over for the new. Abandoned warehouses, banks, terminals, skeletons transforming upwards. Into the light reflected to the bay, a lone sail wends its way, the architect at helm, his parents' home scattered about, mementos of another age, peek through the dust. I, his son, inherit this dream. He jokes and grins back from the grave, creaking from old age he never had, leaning in for the nighttime kiss, the kiss he always gave. The familiar scent drifts down, so much his, I still love it, the poison, whiskey. We now will take the offering for the week.
I'd just like to say a word or two. Folks say that if you want to know what your values are, look at your checkbook. I know from looking at my checkbook that we value sleeping on a good mattress, we value celebrating anniversaries, and things like that. But we also value this church, this gathered community, this place where we get to express our values, to live our values, to share them together in community. So let us now celebrate the community based on love. Let's pass the plate. In Jesmond Ward's skillfully edited collection of essays and poems, The Fire at This Time, Mitchell S. Jackson, in his essay, Composite Pops, proposes that if a boy is not blessed with a father or given a stand-in, then he must find a fatherish men, find what he needs from them and compose one. For me, I had a fatherish mom and needed to have motherish men. I want to acknowledge that a lot of fathers are not nurturing, and some the opposite, some aloof. The father in my life that I had for the longest I chose his daughter. He didn't choose me or I him, and I'm not going to say anything about him. My mother hated sentimentality. She allowed herself a sentimental feeling. It took her over and she cried. She hated to cry. I think she had a hard time standing up to her father, Scottish, stern father James MacDonald, and saw crying as buckling under a weakness and an abandonment of the fierce independence she had fought so hard to gain. This is about fathers, though. 3 men she chose to be part of my life, and the 1 man I chose to be my model of what an adult male should be. It's about my father, Malcolm Seavey, the guy whose genes I carried, who died when I was 13. I'm going to insert here. I realized Friday on my 55th wedding anniversary that my father was 55 when he died, and I have now been married longer than my father lived. So, it's also about my stepfather, Ted, who came into my life when I was 14 and who died before I was married at 22. It's about my mother's boyfriend, Ned, from the time she was 68 until the time of his death 10 years later. It will be a lot about Robert Natty, whom I didn't think proper to call Bob until I was 45, whom I met when I was 15, and remained close to until his death at 84 in 2000. He was probably the most generous person I ever met, full of good humor. Robert was my son Caleb's honorary grandfather. At the time Caleb was born, Gail and I were horrified at anything churchy. So honorary grandfather was a stand-in for godfather. I'm glad that my granddaughters have a real grandfather, although it would be hard to get any luckier than to have Robert Natty as any kind of father. What we expect of fatherhood is so colored by our experience as a child that it is one of the main ways we frame attitudes towards life. All of my fathers were nurturers, and all but one, my own, were professional teachers. Malcolm Seavey would be 119 years old had he lived, died of a heart attack in 1960. He was the baby son of a well-to-do family whose mother died when he was 9. The year he was 42 when I was born, his boat building shop went bankrupt. He moved his family from Maine to Massachusetts, and my brother was born. That year alone might have killed him right there. Although whiskey, lack of exercise, hard partying, I heard it tell from the late dear member here, Lee Steele, diabetes, and the heart medication he took, Digitalis, all helped him on his way. He was really kind. He worked hard to frame things in the most positive light. He was generous to one and all, and he loved his kids. He too, thanklessly, shoveled coal the first year we had a permanent home in Rockport. When he died, I had to grow up quick, taking on, with my younger brother, a household maintenance. It took me many years of anguish for me and others and therapy to find out I was mad at him for dying. When my mother asked asked if I had any objections to her marrying Ted, I said, "It's your life." But of course, it changed mine. Ted Hersey, my older brother's erstwhile German teacher here at Gloucester High, had a phenomenal memory. He spoke 27 languages and was, when I met him in AA parlance, a working drunk. My mother reformed him into a binge drunk. He was really a great language teacher. For example, he'd find out what people were interested in, then give them books in that subject in the language he was teaching. I learned a lot of valuable lessons from Ted, not all of them in German, Russian, or Latin languages I took. I learned a nifty way to hide empty vodka bottles, revealed when the snow melted in the backyard. My father was a whiskey drinker, but it didn't directly kill him the way vodka did Ted. I learned a universal language, sort of like an Esperanto, that had words like pigeon and stinkin' thinkin' and dropkick Murphys. He was quartermaster during the war, and just after in occupied Germany ran the town. When he left, people of the town gave him a silver serving knife inscribed "Unsere Freundin." You see, German's easy. Sounds just like English. His father and brother-in-law were UU ministers. Ted died just after I met Gail, well before our UU association, but we later kept in touch with his sister at General Assembly. Ned Frank was a retired physics professor who, you can look him up, who was introduced to my mother by the family renting our Rockport home in the summers. He was Jewish and my mother Episcopalian. He lived in Boston, she on Cape Ann. When she tried to take him along on her many travels, she'd come back fuming. "Man, he's such an old woman. He goes his fastest and I go my slowest, and he still can't keep up." So they didn't travel together. He insisted on first class, and she thought that was extravagant. Oh yeah, she smoked cigarettes, he smoked cigars. They played Scrabble, had good conversation, came from a common era, and they also enjoyed hosting each other overnight. In a way, I met Ned before ever in person. I met him way before I knew him. He was the lead of a team that wrote my high school physics textbook, which came with films for the more elaborate experiments that would have been costly to run for a high school. And he conducted these experiments in the film, Just Another Crusty Old Man. He was also kind, generous, and always curious about our lives. He once turned to me as we came into my mother's house, and he said, "Jim, tell me about this feminism stuff." I did what I could, but Gail thought he might have asked the authority in the family, standing right there. One of the hardest things I ever did was to tell my mom, when she was on her usual 3-month winter sojourn into Italy, that Ned had died. She could not get a flight back for the funeral, so Gail and I went. At the door to the synagogue, we were asked, friend or family. I had no idea how to answer, so I said, "I'm Amy Zeddy's son." We were led to the second row. Sitting behind Ned's favorite aunts. All of these fathers had a talent for finding out what was good in you and what you were good at, bringing it out. The best at it was Bob Natty, and I was very fortunate to have him around for a good chunk of my life. I said I met Robert when I was 14, but in a real sense, I already knew him. You see, Lee Kingman Natty, with whom we remained close until her death at 100, just a couple of years ago, wrote a book my mother read once a year to my younger brother and I when I was little, The Best Christmas. In it, the middle son rescues his family Christmas by secretly making presents for his parents and 12 siblings when it was feared that the oldest brother was lost at sea and there would not be the store-bought presents that his income provided. In the end, the farmstead rings with joy as both the boy's presents and the return of the brother with his arms full of manufactured goodies made it the best Christmas. That boy was Robert. Not figuratively, literally, during the Depression. His wife heard the tale again and again during their courtship. How could she not fall for the most beloved brother? I had seen pottery being made at an art event at Gloucester High when I was about 8 and had been disappointed that I couldn't try it, having a way with clay already. My father was an architect, the architect in the farm, and was actively involved in the art community, so the materials and the encouragement were there, but not the potter's wheel. After he died, I sure needed some encouragement. The best any of my father's friends offered was money, something that boggled my mind with its sheer stupidity. As happens with young men, I fell in love with a girl, and her best friend's father had a potter's wheel and a wood-fired kiln. And the woods to fuel that kiln, and also the family sauna, that's sauna to you, which drew a crowd of teens every Saturday, gender separated. Well, that Finn was Robert Natty, one of the Gloucester High School guidance counselors, and after I graduated, principal. He was so generous, gave such encouragement, and we still had such a great time messing with the pottery. After I went to art school and brought back my bride, he and Lee really were like another set of parents to us. At his funeral, there were about 16 men and women, all of whom were saying he was like a father to me. We thought we all were the only one. So I found my motherly fathers, and I have never met the impossibly high standards they set. Just ask my kids. As it is with all life, fatherhood is deed on deed, thought on thought, until day calling unto day shall make a life worth living. So be it. What do we do now? Prayer. I buried my prayer. It's a unison prayer, and it's in the order of service. Second page at the top. Also from our hymnal. When we were in Nashville, I became acquainted with a large Turkish community who were all Muslim. And one day I turned to my friend Ismail and said, "Ismail, I figured out. I'm a Muslim. I'm just not a very good one." We'll begin. Save us, our compassionate God, from our folly by your wisdom, from our arrogance by your forgiving love, from our greed and your infinite bounty, from our insecurity by your healing power. We'll now open our turquoise hymnals for number 112, When I Am Frightened. I think this was probably written about partnership, but I'm projecting it into parenthood and fatherhood. benediction is by a heavily excerpted poem by Unitarian E.E. Cummings. My father moved through dunes of love, through sayings of am, through halves of give, singing each morning out of each night, for my father moved through depths of height. Joy was his song, and joy so pure, a heartless star by him could steer, and pure so now, and now so yes, the wrists of twilight would rejoice. My father moved through days of wheat, singing each new leaf out of each tree, and every child was sure that spring danced when she heard my father sing. Maggoty minus and dumb death, we all inherit, all bequeath. Because my father lived, his soul, love is the whole and more than all. We'll now have our song Parting, which I first heard in Northeast India, the third largest Unitarian population in the world. And there are alternative words, and you're welcome to make up anything else you like. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, of the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
you.